Good afternoon. Today I will be showcasing my 2E shop module. Full disclaimer, this module is still very much in an alpha stage, and for those of you that want to use it, uh, you can contact me on Discord or in the comments here. This is designed for Foundry, and yeah, if anybody wants to help test it out, that would be great. I do want to say again, I know there's a lot of bugs, and I will try to identify those as we go through here, but anyway, let's get started. So the idea here is that this module will allow players to shop, sell items, repair armor, and buy services. The GM uses an NPC actor to set up the parameters for this shop. So we'll start from scratch. We'll build a full shop, and I'll try to stay on task here. I didn't write a script or anything, so we'll see if we can kind of stay in some sort of logical order of march here. So we're going to start obviously by creating a shop. The first thing you'll see when you come in is that it has a new button and it's called Create NPC Shop. You'll click on that. Another thing I want to notice, I'm probably going to have a lot of unintended segues because there's still a lot of stuff I'm working on. I'm going to turn off a lot of the UI prompts, so just bear with me as you see a lot of those. So as you can see, it's going to create a new NPC with a new sheet format. First thing you're going to see right off the bat is that it's going to have these tabs. It's going to start off in the shop tab. This is what the players will see. They will see their funds and they will see any items that will potentially be for sale uh, that the DM has designated as sellable. So first thing you'll notice is this select character dropdown. I'm the DM obviously, so I see all of the actors that have a character type. You will not see NPC types, you will just see character types. For the players, they should only see those actors that they have ownership to. So this list would be much smaller. So we're just, as an example, we're going to go ahead and pick the party character. And you can see that I gave him a ridiculous amount of funds to just kind of play with, but it definitely updates just fine as you cycle through any of the players. All right, so we'll start all the way down here in the DM tab. We'll kind of showcase what those options are. So we need to name it. We're going to name this, I'm always a fan of Nuber, video tester shop. All right, so again, there's going to be a lot of UI prompts. I apologize for those. I'll get those out. All right, so it automatically updates the name, and then we can adjust the portrait here, same as you can with any other character. You click on that, it's going to bring up this little window here to choose a portrait type. I've already used the market stall, so we'll just use a kind of a different variation of that. This one looks good. Just go with this guy, just so we can differentiate what's going on here. All right, so now we have the multipliers. This drives pretty much all of the buying and selling. And just in case it's a little confusing, the selling is the selling to the players. The buying is the buying from the players, and the repair is actually established in copper. And this will come into play when the players want to repair any broken armor. So one of the great things about 2E Foundry is that it has the armor damage option that was outlined, I believe, in the fighter's handbook. And if you use that, it's a great tool. It actually, ARS will manage that. However, it can be a little tedious in the bookkeeping, trying to decide how much it costs to repair it. So this takes all of that out. You can just go in, set this, and it will automatically deduct the currency required to render those repairs. All right, so we're not going to get, oh, one last thing. I know I'm jumping around a lot, but if you set any of these to 0, it's going to filter out those items, which is pretty nice. So if you don't want players to be able to sell off their magic items, for instance, like a NPC does not have the funds to purchase those or is unwilling to, you just set it to 0 and they won't be able to sell those items to that NPC, which is kind of nice. This identify all items is pretty useful. So when you start accumulating items into the shop, some of them will be magical, and by default, typically DMs set the identified flag to false, which means the player, when they look at them, they won't know exactly what it is. It'll usually just have an alias. It'll say like leather armor or whatever, or it might not even say anything. It might just say unidentified item. So instead of having to update them and drop them or update them individually, this feature is kind of nice. You just bring in all the inventory that you want the shop to have, click this button, and it will render all of the items identified, which I would think makes sense. The shopkeeper should know what the hell they have if they're going to try to sell them. But maybe not. Maybe they just have some random ass item, and you can adjust that on the fly as well. Um, I also want to apologize for my language. Was in the military for a long time, so I tend to have some colorful language. All right, so next up we have the shop management inventory container. This is where you will actually drop items for updating. The reason that I have it here and in the shop is because I want everything to be manageable in this tab. Having everything in a DM tab where you update quantities and delete items, adjust price, makes it a lot easier for the actual development of it because I only have to set this tab to GM only as opposed to different functions throughout, which can get kind of messy. So if you're wondering why there's a little redundancy on the sheet, that's why. Um, okay, so the last part we have here is manage services. There's no drop down. The reason I added this is because there's a lot of things you like to do in game that you don't really want to buy the item. So if you go to the item browser that's built within ARS, you can purchase things like beer and uh, common room for the night or what have you. But then it's going to actually add that item to the character sheet. Oh, excuse me. And you may not want to do that. You might just want to deduct the currency and they stay the night somewhere or buy some food or beer or what have you. Uh, or maybe they want to like go to a temple and have some sort of spell cast on their party like cure light wounds, and you just want to. Anyway, I think you get the point. You just want to deduct currency. You don't want to actually add an item. So that's what this is for. And it's a little clunky, but it does work. So one of the things I'm having a little trouble debugging is I'm very new to JavaScript. Is Foundry likes to refresh a lot of things when you update an object, and sometimes it's a little weird to try to uh, actually have it not refresh a whole page. It's still kind of refreshing, but it's coming back to the active tab, which I'm okay with, but it's also jumping up and down the sheet sometimes when you do stuff, so just be aware of that. It's a little annoying, and I am trying to debug it, but again, I'm very novice, so it's a work in progress. All right, so we'll start from the top here and kind of get into stuff. So we've already updated the name and the portrait. We're not going to touch any of these multipliers yet because I kind of want to go over those piece at a time. So we'll actually start by actually adding some inventory here. So we're going to go over to the items, and you'll see there there's some updating going on here because I was in a tab. I'm going to stop talking about the UI. You get the point. It's annoying, and I will fix it. All right, so we're going to open the item browser. Let's move this guy out of the way, and I'm going to just showcase some stuff here. So we have a bunch of items to choose from. You won't have all this, obviously. You'll just have what's in your game. So I'm just going to go through some player's handbook items, and we're just going to add some boots, and you can see that it did jump to the top, and you can see that the boots are added. And there's a delete button here if you want to remove the item. You can increase the quantity pretty easily. You just click on it and mouse wheel or change the number. I do want to say that if you accidentally click on one of those and accidentally mouse wheel, it's going to change it. You're going to get a UI notification. It's going to jump around. Get the idea. So we'll add some breeches. Maybe this, we'll just call this like a general store. And yeah, we'll just add some bread, maybe a large chest. And then I want to add some different types of items. I want to add some weapons, obviously, just to kind of showcase the different features that this thing can do. Let's get some containers. This is like your backpacks and your saddlebags and spellbook. Spellbook is a container because it can house spells. Quiver. All right, and just belt pouch. All right, so that's good. And then let's add in. Not gonna add any currency. We're gonna add some potions. So one thing I'm actually gonna show right now is if you try to add, for instance, in a lot of this is a work in progress. These module or the yeah these modules. So you can see that there's no cost on a lot of these items. That does present a problem. So the items will not show in here uh, if they have a zero cost. And that's obviously because the multipliers, when you set them to zero, you want to filter that stuff out for various reasons. But if the base cost is set to zero, I mean, it's just going to not show. So you need to make sure that you update all your base costs. If you forget, and I'll demonstrate how to fix that real quick, we'll just add this potion of extra healing. So you can see it refreshed. It did try to add it, but you're not going to see it because it's filtered out. So what you can do real quick is if you didn't update the cost, go up here to the sheets, change the sheet to the default sheet and save the configuration. This will open it back up in the default NPC sheet, and you can just go over here to the inventory. There's our potion of healing. You can see it's red because it's not identified. And we're going to edit this item, and you can see here's the problem. So we're just going to give it a cost. We don't really care what it is right now. I'm going to say it's 100 platinum. It's pretty expensive, 500 gold. All right, so we'll close it. So now it's got a cost, and I'm going to change the sheet back. Save that, and there's your potion. Pretty easy fix, kind of annoying, but whatever. All right, so some of the things in here, you can see the name, the type, which is kind of nice, and quantity. Oh, so so it jumped us over to the shop tab. That's fine, because when you close the shop or re-render it, it's going to default to the shop. And you can see right away there's some differences here. So you can't edit the quantity, and you can't edit the cost. You can't edit any of this. There's no trash can. So this screen here is pulling directly from the DM tab, but that DM tab drives all of this. The only thing that the player can do from here is purchase the item. So we'll go back to the gear here. We got some quantities, and there's our potion. And you can see that the price is set. It's gonna show the highest denomination. So as you change this, you'll start to see those change a little bit. You can see like this is electrum and 2 silver. Yep, we're using electrum because I didn't want to just not include it. It is a denomination that has a conversion factor, so I wanted to make sure that I had all of the coins taken care of. So anyway, if we decide we don't want something like this guy doesn't have any bread, you can just click on it, delete it. The bread's gone. Don't have to worry about that anymore. And then if you want to adjust some of the prices here, it's pretty easy. So if you just come up here, we'll say that uh, maybe the items are fine, but we want magic items to be more expensive. They're pretty rare. This guy charges an arm and a leg for them. So just update that, and you go down, you can see it's 200 platinum now. So pretty simple. You can do it in decimals of 10. So feel free to obviously change that, and then you can change this as necessary. So maybe it's got 3 of these. All right, and then let's add a service. Just kind of rounding out the last part of the um, GM portion of the tab here. Maybe this guy's got some rooms, common and daily, and then maybe he charges 30 copper a night for that. All right, and then maybe I don't know. Maybe he's got some bread. You don't want to actually walking around with a bunch of bread, but maybe you want to eat some, and we'll just say bread is 1 copper. All right, so there we go. We got a couple items, and should be good there. And you can delete, obviously, just like before, you can delete those items. And we'll just do a quick tour of each of the tabs to show you what they look like. So we've already seen this. You can see that there it is. The potion is very expensive now, and it shows you the weights of the items, how many are on hand, and so on and so forth. And you can see that up here the character funds are blank because we edited the sheet and came back, so it brought the sheet back to a default state, which means there is no interacting character. So we can just go back up here, change this back to our party character. You can see that our funds automatically refreshes and we're good to go. All right, so we're going to go over here to the Sell tab. So this is everything that that player character, party character, excuse me, has in their inventory. And these prices are set by this buy multiplier section. So if this shop owner does not want to, buy something, let's see what he's got here. Any magic items? No magic items. So let's go ahead and we'll give him a magic item. And I'm going to use my campaign items because they're all set up with prices and such. So I'm going to go ahead and give him an item up. I got to open him up first. So he resides right here. And this is another module that I'm going to release sometime in the future. It's a party sheet that I'm working on that's based off a character actor. It's nowhere near ready to really showcase. So for now, we're just going to change it to a default sheet. Okay. All right, so here's all the items that it has. Also, one thing I want to showcase is we are going to we're just going to delete the platinum coins because I want to show something with that in a little bit. So now so it didn't update here. So we need to actually move and come back. So there you go. Now you see that the funds updated accordingly. And instead of setting it to 0, I deleted it. And there'll be a specific reason for that in a second here. All right, so we want to add a magic item. So we're going to come over here, just give him a scroll of blink. Oops. So I added it to the shop. That's fine. I haven't had enough caffeine. All right, so we'll add him a scroll of cloud kill. And you can see that it's not identified. Uh, Now, nice thing about ARS is you can click, there's a little thing over here to identify it. So you can identify items as you go. It turns blue and it's identifiable. Now, if we come over here and look, it's obviously not going to show up right away. We need to come back through the tabs and then it shows up. You can see it's got a sell price of 112 platinum, 2 gold, and 1 electrum. And that is based off of this. So that's based off of the shop's multiplier to buy magic items from the actor. Now, the way these multipliers work is basically everything that's considered an item has the item multiplier. Now, if it has an attribute flag of true for magic, then it will be based off of these multipliers. Now, the treasure multiplier only pertains to gems. So I didn't make it so that it updates the like art type attribute. That's still just going to be considered a item. So if you have, a seller that is willing to pay full price for artwork, you need to make sure that you set the item multiplier and not the treasure, because I seem to recall reading somewhere that gems are considered currency in a lot of cases. But that may not be the case, and I know a lot of people like that, so I just left it as a feature. Maybe in the future I might add something for art, but I didn't want to get too crazy with the multipliers. I just wanted to keep it pretty simple. One thing you could do is if you create an art item, you could just change the type of it to gem if you want to treat treasure like gems. So anyway, enough of that segue. Let's get back over to actually the sell portion here. So I want to showcase, so we got this guy right, and I just want to show you, if we come here and we change the multiplier for magic to 0, you can see that the multiplier is going to take that item out. So the scroll is no longer here in the cell inventory, right? And the same if we wanted to come back here and change this maybe back to zero point 0.5, and the items, we'll change those to 0. And then we'll come over here to cell, and you can see that the rest of the items vanished, but the scroll is there. You get the idea. I'm not going to bother showcasing that too much more because it's basically the same logic throughout with the exception of services, because services, you just don't add one if they don't have any, right? So, but repairs you might want to adjust because, a general store might not have the ability to repair armor. So, and I'm going to change this to 1 because I use other typically for like wood items. Some of the shields might be wood. Those I would feel like would be pretty inexpensive to repair. And then you have metal and leather. And this is driven off the item itself. So the way the logic works there is if the armor, and I'll show you, the armor attribute has the metal material type, that is where this is pulling that from. And then it knows that anytime it needs to make a repair to a armor damage point, it's going to charge the user 75 copper pieces per armor point to make that repair. Let's just showcase that. So we're going to go in here and we're going to damage up some of this stuff. So you got to make sure that there's a couple ways you can do this in ARS. You can either click on the ellipses here and click on edit, or you can hold control and click on the item, and that will open it up in a ready edit mode. All right, so we're going to go back over here to the description area. This is where the damage is. So the way this works, you got the DP max, that's the maximum amount of damage points the armor can accumulate before it is broken, and the DP current, which is how many it currently has. And if you're not too familiar with how this works, this is set up in the settings of ARS. I'm not going to get too much into the weeds on that. But if this drops to 0, it's not supposed to be repairable. So keep that in mind. The way the rule works is if it hits 0, the item is completely unrepairable. And you will actually see the armor class will drop. It will nullify the armor. So if your players are like, why am I so easy to hit now? That's probably why. That's the first place I would go look. And there's really no excuse. Like they can come up here and check, and there's a status bar up here that tells you the armor breakdown. So if you just hover over it, it's going to show you all of the percentages of the different armors. So it's on them really to keep an eye on that. Right. And that's as much as I'll get into that. So let's just showcase how to repair it. All right, so we're going to open up banded mail here. We're going to just drop them all to 5 so you can kind of see the differences. So they all have some different maxes, which will come into play when you go to repair because obviously if it's got a higher max, then to get it to max, it's going to cost more money. And no, I'm not going to try to make it so that you can designate how much to repair. It's going to be all or nothing. I'm not getting too much into the weeds on that. And I think I had a medium shield. So this medium shield, by default, there's just a medium shield, but I created one that was wood because I wanted to test that aspect. So we'll get to see that. All right, so we're going to close this. Excuse me, actually, we're not going to close this. We're going to go over to the forge. So you can see that these items are here, right? So it tells you the durability, they're 5 of whatever, and it tells you the cost that it's going to cost to repair them. You can see that let's go over here real quick. You see the wooden shield is not there because it is not repairable, which means there's no cost, so it's filtered out. So we're going to go ahead and going to add a cost to that, or add some damage. It hasn't showed up, obviously. We need to refresh it. There it is. So we got 2 different shields here, and their prices are substantially different to repair because of the types that they are, right? So the type here for the metals are 75 copper per point, whereas the wood or other is only 1. So we have some pretty large differences here. So the idea here is that even though, this armor is pretty expensive to repair, you're looking at what, 15, 18 gold and some change. That's still way cheaper than how much banded mail like costs. So if we go over here to the banded mail, for instance, it's 200 gold to buy a new set. So, your players are still saving money by repairing their armor as opposed to letting it break and buying new armor. And I think that's a cool like system. It also renders some of the features within the proficiencies system, usable because you got blacksmith, weaponsmith, and armor smith or armor, and those actually have rules in them for creating and repairing things. And without this system, there's you could use them, I guess, but it's more of like a kind of just writing it down, and there's no like visual representation of that and no mechanic built in, which is what I really love, that this armor damage is baked in and has some consequences if you don't pay attention to it. All right. Uh, that said, so we're going to repair some of these. We got some money, and we're just going to repair all these items. So we're going to repair this. You're going to see that it shows that it was repaired. There's some money that hasn't changed, and the item is still there. So if we just come back, you can see the money changes, and the item is gone. So I'm not going to beat that up. We'll just click on all of them to show that they're repaired, and boom. All right, so we had some money go away, and now there's no more items. And then if we go over here to open one of these up, you can see that it did in fact obviously update the item. So works. It's nice to see things working. I mean, being so new at JavaScript, I really had to work hard to figure out how to get all this operational, but this is probably one of my favorite features. And sorry if I'm boring you by talking about it so much. So let's just go over here to sell. So I want to showcase. So we deleted platinum pieces. There are none. Uh, One of the things that this module will do is it will look at currency that the player has. It will calculate how much they're trying to spend, and then it's going to try to reduce, or it's going to try to use up the lower denominations first. If it doesn't have enough, then it's going to take away a higher denomination that it has and give some change and pay for the item. Um, that might still be clunky, and that's kind of why I need some testing from other people. I've I've really worked hard on it. I think it's working 100% good, but I don't I don't know. I can't test for every single instance. Once you start getting a lot of players messing with stuff, things tend to not work out the way that they do when I test it. Anyway, so one thing it also does, I have some default currencies baked in. So when it sees that a currency is missing, it will add that item and rectify that issue. So we're going to showcase that. So as you can see, there's no platinum pieces. So I'm going to just sell an item here that has a platinum piece denomination. So we got this short bow that the party character has, and that is worth 3 platinum. So if we sell that, it's going to bring this up. It's going to ask how many we want to sell. It's going to tell you how much they cost and how many you have available. You cannot go higher than the max. It's locked up. So you can't oversell. You can't overbuy. We'll go ahead and sell it, and boom. You can see that it vanished over here. Um, it's still showing here. Unfortunately, I'm still working on the re-rendering of that. But if you go out, come back in, you can see that the short bow is now gone. If you look over here, the short bow is here, and it's got all the attributes of that item. So don't have to worry about it, right? And you notice that it does not update the default cost. So any of those multipliers, they only pertain to the transaction itself. They do not edit the base cost of the item, which is, I've seen some of these other shop these shop modules, and they have them update the base cost, which is annoying because then if you have an item moving around a lot of different stores or between players or what have you, then that gets out of control. So I don't really understand why that was something that these other modules have. But um, that said, so now we want to look up here and you can see that it added 3 platinum. So if we go back over here, you can see that it added 3 platinum coins. So that's all working fine. That's good. So, and if it, like I said, if it has a coin already available, it'll just punch it right in there, so you don't have to worry about any of that. We can show that. So we have 0 Electrum. So this is another cool feature about ARS. I would not delete these. It's grayed out because it's got a 0 quantity, and that's fine. So now we have essentially a placeholder, right? So especially if you're consumables, I would leave those there so that ARS knows where to throw them into. So I'm going to sell an item here that costs 1 Electrum, this hand axe, and it should it should update that, right? And there it goes. Okay, so it added 1 Electrum, good to go. So testing live here in this video, everything seems to be working pretty well. All right, so now we'll just showcase the services portion real fast. We got a couple options here. We could buy some bread. You see, we got 3 copper, so we can definitely afford some bread. We buy it. Obviously, it didn't refresh, but if we go out there, it refreshed. And then we got this, want to rent a room. There we go. And now I'm going to go ahead and rent another room because I don't have enough silver. And it costs 3 silver pieces. So let's see what happens when I do that. All right, so you see that it took away the Electrum piece that we had on hand because 1 Electrum is worth 5 silver. And then it gave us um, 3 silver pieces because we already had one. So the math checks out. So everything seems to be working, and the proof is here. If it doesn't work after this, I don't know. I'm gonna have to pull my hair out, what's left of it. And I couldn't even tell you how long it took me to get this all to work correctly. All right. So I guess the last thing we're gonna one of the last things we're gonna showcase here is the actual buying of an item. So we've got a bunch of options here. We're going to go ahead and we'll just buy this healing potion here. So it's 200 platinum. And I do want to come up here and show. So we don't have 200 platinum. So it should take from the gold pieces. And it might take from the platinum. I'm actually not 100% sure what it's going to do here. Ideally, it would take away from all these lower denominations. That is how I set up the logic, but haven't tested it. So here we go. All right, we come back. All right, so it went the easiest route. It just took from gold pieces. Fine, whatever. Um, as long as it's actually taking some money, I'm okay with that. But let's go ahead and test some other stuff. So we've got item here that's 2 platinum. We'll buy this dagger. So yeah, it's just taking from gold pieces. It's not the end of the world, but it is what it is. Let's test this item. It's got 1 Electrum and 2 silver pieces. So we're going to buy that. Where did it go? So belt pouch, we'll buy that. All right, so it just seems to be taking from gold. Or is it? Let's see here. Maybe I'm crazy. Oh, no, we're good. Okay. There's a lot of integers in there. It's hard for me to follow what's going on. So it looks like it's working pretty good. So I guess obviously it didn't take the platinum because there was lower denominations available. It didn't try to chew through some of these lower denominations because they were under the threshold of what the base price was, which was a platinum piece. And if they didn't have enough of those to cover, it just went to the next currency. I could probably pull my eyeballs out of my head trying to fix that, but I'm gonna call that a wash, and we can just deal with it. All right, so we've showcased the buying of items, and you can see that the items are in fact over here. Um, I do want to show what happens when you have an item that's unidentified. So I don't, and kind of going back, I don't think I talked about this. Maybe I did. If you click on an item in the shop, it comes up in a edit or a non-edit view, and then if you're in the GM tab and you click on the name of an item, it comes up in an edit view. So pretty neat, pretty nice if you need to edit stuff on the fly when it's already in here. And like this potion of healing, notice it is not identified. I could open it up here and identify it, but what happens when, I have 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 different scrolls to update, right? So I got all these scrolls. I like to make macros to fill these shops with different items, um, kind of at a random uh, situation. So I don't want to, like, if I build a big shop with a bunch of magic items, especially like for scrolls and stuff and potions, which I tend to have a little more abundancy of in my campaigns than, say, like a magic axe. I don't want to have to go through there and update those one at a time, and I certainly don't want to update the master item to identify and then have to switch it back. So that's why, this button is really nice. So you click on this, you can see that it says 6 have been identified. If we open them up, there they are. They are identified. Okay, so now we want to show, what am I missing here? We've showed the shop, we've showed buying items, we have showed selling items, we've showed that the currency is working, we've showed services, we've showed the forge, and then I think we have demonstrated the various multipliers. Um, and I guess I could showcase, deleting an item out of here. One thing I want to show, so it doesn't delete the item off the shop when it goes to 0. I thought about having it do that, but some shops restock stuff, and I I didn't want to get into the weeds, and I thought it was just easier to leave it there. Now with the players, obviously, when they run out of something, I have it delete that item. So if they sell all their items, I just have it delete it off their inventory sheet. Okay, so I guess what I need to show now, and I'm hopefully set up to do this, is show how this tab, the DM tab, does not show for the players, and just kind of show a little bit about what the players see on their side. And I think I have it set up to do that. Bear with me here while I do a quick screen capture. This is going to be this is going to be a little clunky, but I should have did this probably earlier. And we will add this one. All right. And I'm gonna, bear with me while I resize this real quick. Apologize for not having this set up ahead of time, but here we go. All right, so now we have the uh, player's view of what's going on. So there's a lot to unpack here, but what we're going to do is we're just going to scroll down into the actors sheet, and you can see that the actors that we created, those shops, are not showing up, and that is because we did not set the ownership of um, of the actor. So you're not going to be able to see this, but I'm gonna do that in the background. Hopefully you have enough experience with Foundry, you know how to set up an ownership. So I'm going to do that real quick. So obviously they need to have ownership to make the different transactions. Initially, I had made a version of this where they didn't need to be owners, but the problem with that was just the logistics of it were a nightmare. I could not figure out how to get the DM only views, and it just, anyway, it was a straight nightmare. So I'm gonna have to F5 here because the client needs to refresh to show their their own actors. And if this thing hopefully doesn't take all day. All right, so we're reloading. Got a bunch of stuff going on here. Let it unpack everything. I have a lot of stuff in here, so it can take a little while. All right, let's go to the actor. And womp womp. I am not seeing the actor. So let me just go back over here real fast and take a look at what's going on. So I got this. Configure ownership. Oh, I didn't save it. Okay. Ah, this is why you test everything beforehand. Unfortunately, this is such a robust video. I didn't really feel like I could. Okay, so there it is. It showed up right away. All right, so now we can see the video tester shop that we created. And click on that, and this is what the players see, right? So you can see that that last tab, which is the DM tab, does not show up. And I'm just going to kind of go through some of the features real quickly because we really hammered down on them on the DM side, but just so you can kind of get an idea of what the players see. The player clicks their selection. They only have two options. So this actor has, or this player has access to two actors. They have access to their actor, Rumpelminskin in this case, or the party character, which all of my players have access to. So we're just going to showcase that. You can see he has his own currency. These are all the items he has that he could try to sell. And then, does he have any? He's got, obviously, you can buy these and no broken armor, so he doesn't have to worry about that. But I don't want to, this is a live game that I'm showcasing. I don't want to break any of that. So I'm going to go to the party character here and I am going to play around in this a little bit. So we'll just buy an item real fast. We'll buy some boots. You can see that it deducted the 2 gold. It's going to tell you that it did that. And then if we go over here to the inventory, we should see there's a pair of boots. Cool. And then we can sell the item, obviously, sell it back for a gold. Sold the boots back. And then one thing I'm working on, when you do a transaction of things back and forth, it is not adding the item here. I left that out on purpose. Sometimes Foundry sees an item that is a like name, but they're not exactly the same, and it tries to stack them, and then the attributes don't line up, and it just deletes it. So I intentionally left that out just to make sure that it's actually capturing the item. So as a DM, you might have some cleanup if there is a lot of items that are similar being sold back and forth. I'd say just delete them and adjust the quantities. All right, so we've sold an item. We received some money for that. Obviously, we can purchase some services if we want, right? So it's should be deducting that, and it is. It's just not refreshing. And then obviously we don't have any items to repair, but I am going to make an item to repair real fast. So you can see that the players are able to do that. Let's go here and repair an item real fast, or make an item for repair. So we are talking about Rumpelminskin here. Sorry if you can't see what I'm doing as I talk to myself in the background. All right, so he has no armor. Oh, we're not updating Rumpel, we're updating the character. Okay, so we're gonna update this real fast. And we'll just update his leather armor. All right, So if we come back over here, you can see that the leather armor is now there. It's halfway broken, and it's going to cost 2 silver pieces and 5 copper. So this will be interesting. So we don't have the 5 copper, so it's going, and we don't have any electrum, so it is going to have to deduct a gold piece. So at the end of this, I should see 6875 with some change. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. And there it is, 6875 with an electrum, some silver pieces, and the remaining copper that was needed for the repair. And then if we come back here, the item is gone, so it has been repaired. All right, so I apologize for the length of the video. There was a lot to unpack here. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me in the ARS Discord channel, uh, or you can leave a message here, and I will try to get back to you. Just know that um, any testing that you help with, I feel like this module is at a working state. I have some other projects I'm working on, so unless a bug or a feature is so egregious that it's rendering this thing unusable, I probably will not come back to this for a few months. So all this little some of the stuff I'll fix, like the UI and stuff. There's a few minor tweaks, but anything that's going to require me to do some comprehensive debugging, especially with like the refreshing and stuff, I'm not going to get to that for a while. So just bear that in mind. And anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your week or whatever you got going on. Peace out.